What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for another transfer update stream for you guys. And apparently there's some concrete news doing the rounds today with all the reliable journalists chiming in. We have got a lot to speak about today, people. A lot to speak about.
Things moving? Things happening?
That's what it seems as though. 30th of June.
So.
Chelsea have gotten, looking like they're getting over the line, Gittins and who was the other one?
João Pedro.
Here
we go. In line for the Club World Cup.
Arsenal potentially. They've got Zubamendi, Norgard over the line, potentially Eze as well. Manchester City have made a host of transfers. Liverpool have spent close to 200 million in this window. But we've got Kota Takai. So that's all that matters.
Exactly. That's the most important thing.
But big up to everyone in the stream. We've got 400 people in here with us today. Smash that like button, smash that subscribe button on the way in, and let's get into the breaking story of the day. And that is regarding Mohammed Kudus. And Matt Law was the one that broke it all today, and he says that Tottenham want to break their unofficial transfer embargo with West Ham United and sign Mohammed Kudus. Kudus has been identified as the primary target by Spurs, who are optimistic they can clinch a deal for well below the £85 million release clause, which does run until the first 10 days of July. Sources believe Kudus is currently the most likely signing to bolster the attacking options for Spurs. West Ham are willing to sell, and the player is believed to be open to the prospect of moving to Tottenham. Then Romano said Tottenham have genuine interest in Kudus, and he's high on the list this summer, as per Matt Law. Initial contacts took place with his new agents. While there are more clubs involved, Kudus is open to joining Spurs. Ben Jacobs says that Spurs are weighing up a move for Mohammed Kudus, as reported last week. Paul O'Keefe says that Tottenham have had a £50 million bid rejected by Mohammed Kudus last week, which was verified by ex-West Ham employee. I mean, we brought you the news a week or two ago. And this one was the interesting one. Jacob Steinberg saying that West Ham remain adamant that they need to sell to buy, fear of a PSR breach if they don't. The squad was so badly put together that Kudus is basically the only sellable asset, so selling him to Spurs is very possible if they offer enough.
That's always the crucial part of the story, isn't it? If they offer enough. I do like Matt Law's start to the article. Tottenham want to break their unofficial transfer embargoes if Tottenham is the one who put it in place. As if we're the ones, we're just refusing to buy off West Ham because we hate them so much. I'm pretty sure it's the other way around. But if you cast your mind back to about a decade ago, or maybe a bit longer, we did used to, not regularly, but we used to happily do deals with West Ham. It wasn't like a big thing.
The last one was Scott Parker, 2011.
And wasn't he their captain at the time? I know he had a year left on his contract.
Yeah, and it was like a $5 million deal or something.
Yeah, but we took their captain. It wasn't like seen as a massive deal, if I remember, taking him from West Ham at that time. Obviously, we did a swap deal with Defoe for Canute back in the day. Michael Carrick, we bought off them as well.
We took a keeper off them not long ago as well, didn't we?
What, Jimmy Walker?
Was it Jimmy Walker?
I think he came on a free. But I'm saying, not that long ago, it wasn't seen as like a massive deal. All of a sudden, I don't know, maybe the rivalry's grown in that time, and now obviously we haven't signed a player off them since Scott Parker. But hopefully, maybe things have changed with West Ham's desperation to sell. I've seen a few people saying maybe with Vinay there, does he have better relations with West Ham than some of our other people heading up the transfers before? I'm sure Daniel Levy's probably pissed him off a few times. I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe if Vinay is there to mediate things, maybe that could help. Because obviously West Ham and Arsenal have pretty good relations, so maybe he had dealings with West Ham when he was at Arsenal. But in terms of Kudus himself, I think it'd be a phenomenal signing if we can get over the line. Didn't have a great season last season for one reason or another. A lot of West Ham fans feel like he checked out of West Ham last season due to their poor performance and their declining kind of form. And when he was there in the first season, obviously they had a decent run in the Europa League. They looked like maybe they were going places. He had a brilliant first season. I think it was 8 goals, 6 assists in his first season, and it looked like he was going to be a star player for them. And then second season, obviously Lopetegui came in. They got rid of him very quickly. I think he fell out with Lopetegui, and then Potter came in, and he hasn't really regained his form. Albeit, I think it was like 5 goals, 3 assists, which, for a player of Kudus' ability, he should be doing a lot more. But in terms of what Tottenham need on that right-hand side, he obviously he fits in perfectly. He's a player who I think that if you look at like the profiles we have in the winger positions, I don't think we have anyone of that kind of physical profile. Just so strong, ability to keep the ball in tight situations, able to hold off defenders as well. I think in terms of like our wingers, who's like our strongest physical winger? Probably Brennan, or maybe.
Well, it depends if you consider Kulu.
I guess Deki, yeah, you can say Deki there as well, but Deki maybe doesn't have the pace that Kudus has to run away from people, albeit he does have really good upper body strength. Kudus has unbelievable physical abilities. I do think he's still, in a weird way, hasn't fulfilled his real potential that he's got, because I feel like he can maybe be a bit too selfish. He probably still loses the ball a bit too much. And I still think as well, he gets himself in so many brilliant positions, and then sometimes his decision making lets himself down. He's not quite a creative player. He likes to be very direct towards goal. So I think that's something that's going to have to be, he's going to have to improve. But maybe with better players around him, I feel like maybe at West Ham, especially under David Moyes, they were playing the kind of this very counter-attacking approach where they basically, when they get the ball, it's like give it to Kudus and basically run the pitch and see what you can do on your own. Whereas at Tottenham, hopefully, it'll be a different kind of story. But it's good to have that kind of weapon if we are ever on a counter-attacking transition. So that would be very good. Obviously, he's not a running behind kind of attack. He likes the ball to feet and carry the ball towards goal himself. But he's so good at holding players off. That is such a valuable asset to have. And he's got a very good left foot as well, very powerful. I've described him as like the Moussa Dembele of kind of wingers. That's kind of how I see him. I do think he's got potential to really improve that output. But I think he needs maybe more strings to his bow. I feel in terms of when he gets into that final third, the kind of finishes, I do think he kind of favours either a pole driver or like a daisy cutter into the corner, whereas maybe a bit of finesse in his shooting. Maybe if he can get that in his game, it can. Also, he very much relies on his left foot, very left-footed. But it's not a massive issue if, when he's so hard to get off his left foot. He's like one of those players where you know what he's going to do, but he's just so hard to stop because he's stronger and faster than you. So I think it's a guy who's unbelievable potential. But obviously, whether we can get this deal done, we'll have to see. We'll have to see how interested Chelsea are. We read yesterday after João Pedro got confirmed by Romano, Simon Phillips from, I think it's from the Telegraph.
Is he from the Mail?
I can't remember. But I think he's quite a good Chelsea journalist. He said that Chelsea is still very much looking, going to go for Kudus as well. So if they're still in the race, that could obviously be a stumbling block. A lot of players like Kudus who want to stay in London opt for Chelsea with the money that obviously they offer a lot of the time ahead of someone like us. But hopefully, if the money's right for us, if we can go to like 65, 70 million, I'd rather overpay for someone like Kudus than I would for Semenyo. And I think he's got a lot more ability than Semenyo, in my opinion. And I think in terms of what we're missing in the squad, I think he just offers something that we're desperately needing.
I think that's what it is. It's like the abilities that he have with the squad and the team is just crying out for something like that. We were crying out for it last season. We were crying out for it the year before. And he's got actually elite ability in ball carrying and being able to take on his man consistently and ferociously. I mean, I love Kudus as a player. I loved him before he joined West Ham. And we were both in agreement saying that Spurs should go for Kudus when he was at Ajax. Obviously, it wasn't to be done. But in that kind of tactical element that you're talking about with West Ham, is that the tactic was like get the ball to Kudus and just charge up the pitch. So it's kind of like the same tactics that we saw from Ghana in the World Cup as well, when he was playing through the middle. They were just giving the ball for him and he was just like storming forward. And I do think it's that element as well is just something that we need in the squad. Just someone that you just can't get the ball off. Too often on the right-hand side, we've had Brennan Johnson, who's too scared to take on his man, checks back, cuts inside too much, and basically you only see him at the back post where he's free. Where Kudus, if he was on that right-hand side, he would just give us a complete different element to our game. He really would. And he's a player that's versatile, can go on the left, can go through the middle, his preferred right-hand side as well, had time up top as well. So I think I would love to see Kudus through the doors at this club. And I think if you can get him out of West Ham for 65 million, I don't even think that's an overpayment. I think that is like true to his value, to be honest. And yeah, fine, he didn't have such a great season for West Ham, but you can't judge a player solely on one season. You've got to look at the whole catalogue of his work, and the whole catalogue of his work is such an exciting player to watch. Bums off seat player, and I think he's a proper Tottenham player as well. Like he'll get the crowd excited, and like I said, it's just something that we're just crying out for at this moment in time.
I think in those transitions, he can be a bit of a cheat code at times. Just his ability to, out of any situation, just get forward, albeit he's also, I think, top of the league for the amount of times he gets dispossessed and gives away the ball. If you look at his dribbling stats, obviously, if you look at like successful take-ons, they look on paper quite impressive because I think he completed the most in the league last season.
Yeah.
But if you look on the flip side, I think he lost the ball the most in the league as well. So that's kind of the give and take you get with Mohammed Kudus. He'll try lots and lots of things. A lot of the time will come off, but a lot of the time will come. Half the time will come off, half the time it won't. So it's about refining that, making him more effective, making sure that he's only going for things when it's possible for him to rig out the situations, rather than how he's been over the last 2 years, where it's like just keep going for whatever situation and 50-50 you'll get out of it. And I think with some of that refinement and eliminating some of that decision making, I think you've got a top player in your midst there. In terms of, though, is there any kind of reservations, the fact of how quickly he's lost interest at West Ham? Like the fact that, West Ham, from what I'm reading from West Ham fans, a lot of them aren't even too bothered about him going. A lot of them have seen him checked out, and that's after one season. He fell out with the manager. I don't know what went on with him and Lopetegui. I think he was playing out of position.
Apparently, he was about to lamp Lopetegui in the face.
There was all these different things. I know he was like playing out of position and stuff, and they had a falling out. But he had one good season, then all of a sudden he got himself. I don't know whether he got his head turned or he just kind of was disillusioned with what was going on at West Ham. But is there is there a concern there that very quickly he could turn to looking for a bigger move if he's an instant hit?
I think there is obviously slight reservation because of what we've seen over the past year or so with him. However, I'm going to back Thomas Frank's kind of judge of character on this one, and I don't think Frank would want him through the door if he believed that he's that sort of character that is going to kick up a fuss and that is going to have his head turned pretty quickly. So, look, there are reservations just because of what we've seen, but I'm going to decide to go with Frank's judgment on this one. And I think he's obviously been a very good judger of character in the past. So I don't see why this would be any different.
Well, yeah, I'm sure he has. I don't know if he's spoken to him yet or not. I don't know if he knows his character just yet. But
if we are going to bring him in, surely that's something they would have thought of and they would have spoken about.
For sure. Of course. Obviously, with any player, you can talk to them all they want and you can, make the judgment, but you won't really obviously know until they, you through the door. You have to be convinced by that conversation, of course, but until they're through the door and then you're seeing them day to day, that's obviously when you truly know. But yeah, I think from that point of view, hopefully we can we can improve on where we were last season, and obviously he's got Champions League football there. So hopefully that point of being disillusioned where the club's going, he doesn't really play a part. I described him on Twitter as the anti-Brennan in terms of how he plays. He's pretty much the polar opposite of what Brennan offers. Like Brennan will obviously be that player who ghosts into the back post unguarded. But in general play, he'll go missing for large periods. When he gets the ball, he's not really a threat taking on his man. Whereas Kudus is like the complete opposite.
Always involved. But when he comes into the final third and into the box and stuff like that, is he as effective as Brennan? Is he going to be taking up those positions that Brennan does at the back post? Will he get as many goals as Brennan? Maybe not. But also in terms of creativity, yes, dribbling-wise, he creates things. But from what I've seen, very much he's not a guy who creates so many chances, and he needs to learn that to his game. I think he needs to learn to be a bit less selfish. But as I say, maybe at Tottenham, with better players around him, with more players maybe on his level, maybe the feeling is if he won't feel like he needs to do everything by himself, whereas West Ham maybe had that feeling. Yeah, but it's not even just that. It's also a much different tactical setup where West Ham have been, I know we were a mess last season, but at least we had a clear tactical identity, and under Frank we're going to have a clear tactical identity. I don't think West Ham had that over the past couple of years, particularly last year. Sacked their manager, brought in Potter. Potter didn't really know which way he wanted to go. I think it was a bit of a mismatch and a bit of a shit show from that aspect in terms of West Ham. And I think if we have a clear tactical idea, clear tactical setup, Frank, who's also got previous of bringing on these kind of wingers, refining their game and getting the best out of them, I think you'll see a much better Mohammed Kudus at Tottenham than you saw at West Ham. And I feel like those things that you're talking about in terms of his finishing, creative nous, I think kind of at Tottenham that will be more refined than us, and I think you'll see a much higher output at Tottenham than you saw at West Ham.
Yeah, I feel like it's a good thing to have an anti-Brennan anyway. It's like that's positive.
You need different profiles.
Exactly.
And you need people that are going to offer completely different things. When games are going one way or another, tactical setups that you're facing low box, facing high pressing teams. You know what I mean? So you need all different kind of aspects.
100%. Obviously, he also can play a role in the number 10 if needed as well, which is really... And also maybe up front if that's also called for it. I know he's played that role before, so I think he's a versatile player. And even left wing. I know he doesn't really like playing on the left wing, but he's a player maybe in certain games if we just feel like we need a player who just goes on the outside consistently and beats his man and whips it across. I think Kudus can do that as well in certain games. So I think he can really play across the front line. I think he hasn't fulfilled his... the ceiling that he can, I think, at West Ham. I think he's got levels to go. Maybe he just needs kind of channeling in terms of where he's heading. Maybe he just feels like right now West Ham's a club that, maybe I don't know, after a year he feels like he's outgrown them. I think that's a bit much, but something's gone wrong, obviously, for him at West Ham. And I really think coming to Tottenham, he can really fulfill his potential. And obviously Frank has that ability to know how to use players and how to get the best out of them. He kind of refines the system as to how to fit players in. So he'll find the best position for him. He'll find the best way to use him. And I think he's a player that we just don't have that kind of profile. And I also think that the fact that Chelsea have gone for João Pedro, surely he looks at that Chelsea front line. You got Pedro, Palmer, Neto on the left-hand side in that front three. Like at Tottenham, at least, you're looking at there's a real natural place for him on that right. At Chelsea, he might look at it and think, is he guaranteed as much game time maybe as he is at Tottenham? I think maybe that's a consideration we'll have to bring in.
Yeah, of course, it's a consideration, but he could be looking at Tottenham and saying Brennan got 18 goals last season. It's going to be a big fight on his hands, but I think he'd back himself going to Chelsea or Tottenham to get significant game time, in my opinion. But there's one thing also worth considering and worth noting is that he will be playing at the AFCON this season, so we would lose him for, a month or so that the tournament goes on, however long Ghana kind of last in the tournament. So that's also something on top of Pape Sarr, Bissouma if he stays around. Is that our only two? Is there any more? Yeah, so that would be a bit of a blow.
Someone says Ghana didn't qualify.
Oh, is that right? Did Ghana not qualify?
Someone says to see that. Ghana.
That's positive then.
African Cup of Nations. Let's see.
I'd be surprised if Ghana didn't qualify. Ghana are a pretty good team.
Looks like they, out.
Oh wow!
Failed to reach the AFCON.
Wow. So scrap that. Scrap that. We were not going to lose into the AFCON because Ghana didn't qualify. That's quite unbelievable. But at 24 years of age.
Yeah, he's still young as well.
It's a good age, coming into his prime over the next couple of years. It's just music to my ears saying that we're not going to be signing a 19, 20-year-old to come in and challenge Brennan on that right-hand side. And I think at 24, you're getting him at a really good age, probably the most perfect age.
Yeah, and I think he's also he must have some Champions League experience with Ajax, I'm guessing, as well.
Yeah.
He must have played for them at that level, so he must be used to it. We know he's Prem experienced. And as we were doing this video on Friday as well, we are running out if we do want like a Prem-proven kind of attacker, if we believe that's necessary. Then Pedro's just been another one that's been snapped up that we were linked with. So they are very much all the ones at middle range clubs are very much getting snapped up very, very quickly. And so Kudus is pretty much it's between if Eze is going to go to Arsenal, it's you're looking at Kudus or Semenyo really as players who we think could be genuine upgrades what we got on the wing. So I do think I'll choose Kudus. I think he would be my pick out of those two, and it'll be a very, very exciting signing if we can pull this off. But obviously we've had a £50 million bid rejected. Is 65 enough? Are we going to have to go to 70? Do you think?
Well, the rumours have been in the press over the last week or so, last couple of weeks, that 65 million is the number. So if we do bid that, I do think it could get over the line. Maybe 60 million plus 5 or 10 in add-ons, I think can get the job done.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope there's no kind of premium on Tottenham if there is to be one. But I would love if we can get this deal done, get him off West Ham. Apparently, I'm hearing West Ham fans aren't even too bothered if he comes to Tottenham as well.
I guarantee you that won't be the case. That will not be the case. I've seen a lot of tweets being like, anyone but Tottenham, anyone but Tottenham. And remember when we signed Jermaine Defoe off them and the stick and the hate that Defoe got for the rest of his career pretty much every time he lined up against West Ham, I guarantee you this will be no different.
So do you think from like a PR standpoint, if he does sign for Tottenham for West Ham's point of view, they're going to try to put out there that, that they've got a significant fee. Maybe they made Tottenham pay more than their rivals or something to make to kind of make it more palatable for West Ham.
Yeah, I mean,
fans. I mean,
I think whichever way they dress it up, whichever way they slice it from a PR standpoint, I think the Vans are going to be gunning for the ownership there. I really do.
That's why they've got to be careful with this, I think. Well, obviously, I don't really care. Hopefully, they sell to us, and I'm not bothered about it. But I'm saying from their perspective, I wonder, how much more difficult that fan reaction would make it if there was would they prefer to sell to a Chelsea if they came in rather than us?
I think for sure they'd prefer to sell to a Chelsea if they came in than us. But at the end of the day, they're going to sell to the highest bidder if it's what is true in the financial reports that saying they have to sell. And let's say Chelsea don't come in and we're the only team that do come in, or we offer high. I know it's unlikely that we offer higher than Chelsea, but let's say we do offer higher than Chelsea and he comes to us, then there's nothing they can do about it.
Yeah.
But it's also worth noting as well that he had a bit of a spat on the pitch with Van der Ven, Brennan Johnson, Richarlison. Spurs players were dropping like flies on the pitch at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium early last season. And Spurs have got getting a bit of a habit of doing this kind of thing, buying Richarlison after his bust up with Cristian Romero when he was playing for Everton. And now if Spurs, they've got to do something in terms of an announcement video regarding that, because that would be hilarious.
That'd be fun. Yeah. Obviously, maybe we're just targeting players our players have got in fights before. That's something. But yeah, I doubt that. I don't know what they'll do with the announcement, but I'm sure it'll be funny first interaction.
Yeah, that's because they made a big thing out of the first interaction of Romero and Richarlison.
Yeah, but a large part of that as well is because they did battle off against each other in the international level. They're very much Brazil and Argentina, big rival. They were big rivals at that stage. Whereas obviously, I don't think Kudus cares that much about. I think it was just a heat of the moment kind of thing. Whereas I think, I think there's been a few matches where Kuti and Richarlison have battled against each other. But yeah, I'm sure there'll be something to be done there with the announcement.
But look, that is the story this morning. Mohammed Kudus, Spurs talks intensifying. Let's hope we hear more about this over the coming hours and the coming days. For me, as of now, he's got to be the number one target.
And also, I read he's on 90 grand a week, so
easy for Spurs.
Yeah, we should be able to put him on like 120 or something. 130.
Yeah, maybe even more, maybe like 150 or something like that. So yeah, because you're looking at some of the players that are going off. Like, I'd even put him on Timo Werner wages. You know what I mean? I think he's worth that. So that is the story as of today. Let us know in the comment section below your thoughts about Mohammed Kudus. Would you like to see him at Spurs? And do you think paying 65 million is overpaying for him? Let's move on and let's go to some of the super chats. And this one is from HBFPW. Says, hi guys, West Ham fan here. Love the show. Our main transfer source X posted, when being asked if it's true, pain.
Yeah, the ex-transfer employee, I guess he's talking about.
West Ham employee, yeah.
That's what I mean, yeah.
So this guy is saying pain. So he's clearly not happy about it.
All fans are welcome. Welcome to the show. You're welcome, even though you do support West Ham. Big up to you. Yeah, he as you say, we said it. He confirmed Paul O'Keefe's report that we had a £50 million bid rejected, and it seems as though West Ham are really desperate to get him out the door due to all those PSR reasons. So. It's not great for West Ham, obviously, because when you're looking at their attack, obviously they had Kudus, Paquetá, Bowen. They were looking like a really good one. But if Kudus out the door for PSR reasons,
Paquetá as well,
and potentially Paquetá, then all of a sudden they're going to be very depleted. But Potter had a history of making things work with Brighton, but at Chelsea, it didn't very much didn't work for him. So he's got a big job on his hands rebuilding that squad. But you're looking at their squad, they don't really have too many players that. You would command good fees, who people be queuing up for right now.
Yeah, Jared Bowen.
Bowen's one, and at 28, you could argue maybe you should be smart to sell him. But Bowen's just the one who's performing so consistently. You just can't lose that, can you? That
he's a captain as well,
and he's a captain. After that, do you try and get some money for Fulkrug, who's just been injured? Do you just I don't know how much he commands. Somerville was injured the whole of last season.
Todibo maybe.
You got Todibo, but how are you going to make a profit on him?
How much did they sign him for?
I don't know. I think the obligation kicked in this summer, maybe 25 or 30. I don't know. I think something around that.
I mean, before West Ham signed him, we were talking about him as like a top centre back.
I know, but you're not getting profit on him. I don't think they make a loss. Maybe you can get what you paid for. I doubt they make a big profit on him.
How much did they sign Kudus for?
I think it's like 40.
40.
Yeah.
So if we sign him for 65,
Yeah, it's
like
a good
25
profit.
million profit.
It's a good profit. Yeah, I'm looking at this squad. It's slim pickings really in terms of players who you can make. Like if you look at any centre mids, I mean, Alvarez, Ward-Prowse, make a bit on them, but not much.
I don't even think they're making much on them. Scorpion fan for life, member for 50 months. Big up to you.
Come on.
Says, who's the better right wing player, Kudus, Decky, or Johnson? I think, like, just as a player alone, as a right winger, I would say Kudus.
Yeah, I think again, similar to Kudus and Brennan, Decky offers something very different to both of them. Whereas Brennan offers the goal scoring, Kudus offers the dribbling ability, and then Decky offers the chance creation. He's the one who
you kind of want to merge all three.
Yeah, all three. And he's the one who you get him in the final third. He's the one more likely to create a chance and create an opening and put a good ball in or get a killer pass or something like that. So he offers something very, very different. But yeah, I think on the balance of it, I think Kudus probably has something in him that the other two couldn't learn, whereas Kudus could probably learn what Decky and Brennan can do.
Yeah, I agree with that. Another super chat here, I'm not even going to try and pronounce that name, says, I loved Kudus, but I truly think we should try and push the boat up for Javi Simons. It's going to be hard, but I'm thinking he should be a true statement deal.
Yeah.
So would you prefer Javi Simons over Kudus? The thing is, right, like...
I think I would probably. I think Javi Simons is...
The thing is, though, like, Kudus just fills much more of a gap in the squad than Javi Simons does.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I think Javi Simons can also play across the front line. I think in a different way he fills a different kind of gap. But I think Kudus just, on that right wing, he's just a perfect fit for what we need. Javi Simons would just be such like a kind of a razor in level when you bring him in across the front line.
You don't think Kudus is?
I think he is. I think he's an improvement on the right-hand side.
I think he comes in and he's comfortably our best winger.
I think quality-wise,
over the left and the right.
I don't know.
If Son leaves, that is.
Well, you think he could be our best left winger?
I think he'd be our best. If you put all the wingers in a pool, I think he comes out on top.
I think quality, yes. I don't know about output. I don't think he scores the most, gets the most GA in our wing if he comes in. But he has certain qualities that are also more valuable or just as valuable as GA. It's not all about GA. It's all about dragging your team up the pitch, getting them in certain situations. A bit like Dembele, just because he wasn't getting goals and assists doesn't mean his contribution wasn't valuable. I think Kudus is similar in that front.
But I think you'll see his, like, just because he hasn't done it in the last couple of years at West Ham. I mean, first year was decent, nothing to write home about. Last year wasn't great. But like I said before, at Tottenham, I think that's going to go up dramatically.
Yeah, I think there's certain aspects he'll be our best. Overall...
Who would be our best overall winger then?
I think if we to keep Son, I still think Son's a better player.
Yeah, I'm saying if Son was to go.
Yeah, if Son was to go, yeah, then he probably would be. Yeah, he probably would be.
I think comfortably.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on. Let's go to a... 1 second. Let's go to Tottenham. I think another super chat just came in, so let me just get into that. Oh, no. Did it? No, it didn't. All right.
It did.
It did?
NSGB says, I just think Simons is borderline world class.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I mean, he's proved it over the last couple of years how good he is. And I would love to see him through the doors at this football club. I really would. In an ideal world, you get both, but we don't live in an ideal world, unfortunately.
We're Tottenham fans here. We ain't getting both. We ain't getting both. Picking and choosing.
All right, let's get into this Tottenham update then, and let's start off talking about the official news on Kota Takai, as Kawasaki Frontale have confirmed Kota Takai will be leaving to a team on July the 5th to begin the process of joining an overseas club. I wonder who that overseas club could be.
Yeah, big surprise. It was interesting because obviously all the announcement got the here we go and everything, and then it went quiet, and I saw he was playing for Kawasaki in between that. So I was like, okay, is this done, or is he still playing? What's going on? So they've announced it now. Obviously, it's just a matter of time before Tottenham announce it. He'll probably be part of the squad in time for the pre-season tour. Look, and I welcome him to the club. Obviously, with news coming up, we'll talk about. I'm starting to get a bit worried. But yeah, in terms of Kota Takai, I'm excited about what he can bring. And look, this guy clearly is very talented. So 5 million is not a very big risk. But obviously, we've spoken about it before. It's just about it's about squad space. And obviously, with him taking a spot up, if he is going to be here for next season, it throws up some problems for us.
Yeah, 100%. The risk isn't the outlay. The risk is it's probably more valuable than an outlay, and that is a commodity of space. We don't have space in the squad to carry passengers next year. That's the reality. So he needs to more or less hit the ground running. That's what he's going to need to do. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. Next up, let's talk about Mikey Moore. Ali Gold gave us a Mikey Moore update yesterday, and he says Spurs have offered Mikey Moore, who was playing at the Under-19 Euros Championships with England this month, a new contract to replace his current deal until 2027, ahead of his 18th birthday in August, which has kick-started negotiations between all parties. There is plenty of interest in Moore, but both in terms of loan next season from clubs in England and across Europe, and also clubs lurking for some more permanent deals in the case a deal cannot be agreed with Juventus among those linked in recent weeks. Tottenham are expected to ensure that is not the case with a long-term contract. Head coach Thomas Frank will decide what happens next season with Moore and whether he gets a loan move to get him regular football, but Tottenham's lack of homegrown players could dash any such thought, with the teenager able to be used in the Premier League and Champions League without taking up a squad place due to the academy status. One thing is clear though, and that is that Spurs want Moore to remain and become a talent they expect him to be in the years ahead.
Yeah, and that's really positive news. Obviously, you hear murmurings, don't you, about other clubs being interested in all those kind of things. So get that contract done, get his long-term future secure. This guy is clearly a serious talent. This guy is going to be a fantastic player for Tottenham. I think he's already shown in his short amount of time on the pitch what a good player this guy is going to be. And I know he's 17, but I think what he did as a 17-year-old last season was fantastic. I know people compare him to like Yamal and Nwanieri, but these guys, you can't always do a one-to-one comparison. I think if you compare him to most 17-year-olds, this guy's an outstanding talent right now in the Premier League and in football. And I think most people can see that. And it's a big question mark what we do with him next season as a 17-year-old. Do we put him on loan in the Championship?
Well, he'll be 18 next year, yeah.
He'll be 18. Well, he's 17 at the moment. Would he go on loan to the Championship, try and get regular time at men's football? Is it worth keeping him around and just allowing him to develop around better players? Is he one of those players who needs better players around him at this kind of time, or can he star in a lower team and carry that on his shoulders at his age? I think those are question marks that'll be had around him right now. But one thing's for sure, we need his long-term future secure, because he's going to be a very good player for us for a long time to come.
Yeah, completely agree. Let's talk about Eberechi Eze. Ben Jacobs says that Tottenham have backed off with their interest of Eberechi Eze. He says, my understanding is that Tottenham have actually backed off in the last few hours. Although the interest is genuine, it's nothing more than that. Alistair Gold says the situation with Eberechi Eze remains the same. It's nothing more than interest from Tottenham at this stage. And Romano says that Eze is a player Tottenham appreciate. However, there is no active negotiations at this stage, as Spurs are still assessing all options before deciding who they wish to go for in this summer transfer window. So that Romano update was before the Kudus one. So obviously they are trying to advance on the Kudus situation. And Romano also gave us an update today regarding Eze and Arsenal, and talks are definitely intensifying on that situation. So yeah, it seems as though that basically Arsenal have come in and Spurs have gone, all right, see ya.
That's what it sounds like to me. I don't believe what they're saying. There was no talks or anything like that activity. I think there was, and I think they've heard that Arsenal are now ahead of them in the pecking order, and he wants to go there. And I think they're putting out that we weren't really that interested anyway. That's what I think's happened, in my opinion, which is a massive blow, obviously, because I think Eze again would have been such a brilliant signing for us, and such a talent raiser in the squad, and he's been brilliant for Palace. But unfortunately, right now, he's a boyhood Arsenal fan. There's a spot for him on that left wing, in my opinion, if he wants it at Arsenal. So I think it's going to be tough for us to compete with that right now, especially if he wants to go there. It's no point even trying to convince him otherwise. I think you just got to accept it.
Never wanted him anyway.
Yeah, of course
Never
not.
wanted him anyway.
Much prefer Kudus.
Yeah. Much prefer Mikey Moore out on that left-hand side than Eze. Brian Mbeumo, David Ornstein gave us a funny update on Friday, I think it was, says that Mbeumo has told Brentford and Tottenham he will only join Manchester United if he leaves Brentford this summer. A Man U proposal, 45 million plus 10 and 55 million plus 7.5, still short of Brentford's valuation. Talks ongoing. However, Tottenham do deny making any sort of offer for Brian Mbeumo. So Brian Mbeumo, the position from him saying, even if the move to Man United doesn't materialise, he's going to stay at Brentford. He wouldn't even join Tottenham anyway.
No, I don't believe that, to be honest. I just think the deal's close, and right now he can almost kind of touch his move to Man United, and I think that's clearly what his priority is. And I think it sounds like from last week, all the reports, that deal is on the cusp of being agreed and completed. They want him in the door before the pre-season tour, so it's another one we're going to have to lose out on. But I don't believe we weren't interested. I don't think we actually put in an official bid. I do believe that, but I don't believe in Mbeumo that if United were off the table that you wouldn't consider Tottenham. I don't believe that.
Where's the Frank Paul?
No Ange Paul, mate. Doesn't have the Ange Paul.
Paul O'Keefe is reporting that Aston Villa attacking midfielder Jacob Ramsey is understood to be a player that Tottenham are reconsidering signing this summer. And also, he said on top of that, is bringing in a number 6 is the priority for Spurs this summer as well.
Yeah, and that's the kind of issue with the whole Jacob Ramsey thing. He's a very versatile player, but of all the positions he plays, number 6 isn't one of them. And do we want to sign him to be do we want to sign him as a squad option who can fill in various positions? Yeah, that's fine. But do you want him starting on the left wing? Do you want him starting in the number 8? Probably don't really want him starting in any of those positions. We're very well stocked in a lot of those positions. Obviously not on the wing, but you don't really want him as a winger, in my opinion. If we needed a kind of number 8, then yeah, fine, I'd be very excited about it. But it doesn't make sense right now to be signing a player like him when, again, squad space is limited and we have other priorities. But I do understand he is a very versatile kind of midfielder, can fit in a lot of different positions, and he's done very well for Aston Villa. He's kind of like, when they say a player is like a very consistent 7 out of 10, that's kind of like Jacob Ramsey. He's consistently quite good. Never really very rarely like a 9 or a 10, but very rarely puts in a stinker as well. He's just very consistent level. But I can understand the appeal of him, but for what we need right now, I wouldn't say makes too much sense.
Yeah, I do agree with that to a certain extent. Every time I watch him play, I'm like, look, this guy's a proper player, and he's still he's 24, so he's still, got a lot of time on his hands to improve. In the next couple of years, I expect him to go up even a few more levels. I mean, the Aston Villa situation with PSR seems to be behind them now because they've sold their women's team, and that's not a situation going into next season in terms of a points deduction or anything like that. They're kind of safe from that aspect. So I think they'll end up keeping Ramsey, to be honest. I think these kind of rumours have kind of propped up when Aston Villa seemed to be in PSR issues, but I don't think they are anymore. Next up, let's talk about Cristian Romero. There's a lot doing the rounds on Kuti today, and a journalist out in Argentina, Fernando Cis, however you want to pronounce that, says that Tottenham Atletico are understood to be close to reaching agreement of a fee of 55 million euros plus 10 million euros in add-ons for the transfer of Cristian Romero. The actual article said that there is an agreement in principle in place, which is quite worrying. Edu Burgos says that new talks between Atletico and Tottenham this week. Spurs are open to negotiating, but they won't go much lower than the 70 million euro asking price. Sky Sports says that reports in Argentina media that Spurs have agreed a fee with Atletico are not true. And Alistair Gold says that Thomas Frank wants to keep Romero at Spurs this coming season. The reports stating that Atletico Madrid have agreed a fee are not true. And Graham Bailey says that talks between Tottenham and Atletico over a deal for Romero are ongoing, with the latter making an offer worth £55 million, and an agreement is now close. So, all the Argentina reports are saying that talks are intensifying. The reports coming out of London are all saying that none of that is true. So which one are we believing?
I believe they're intensifying 100%. I think, judging by all the context surrounding this kind of deal, the fact that it's likely that Romero wants to leave, especially since Ange's gone, the fact that he's spoken about wanting to play in La Liga, and we know that Atletico really appealed to him, the fact he only has 2 years left on his contract, and he's very likely unwilling to sign a new deal, which would tell me that Tottenham would be open to a sale if a good offer comes in, if he's refusing to sign a contract, If the reports are that a deal is close, and they're saying it's 55 plus 10 million in add-ons, and Tottenham are looking for 70, that tells me that they're not far apart away from the valuation, in my opinion. And if they're willing to spend that much, then I think there's enough wiggle room to meet in the middle in terms of what we want and what they want. So if there's any truth that Atletico have shown a willingness to pay the amount that's been quoted, 55 plus 10 million add-ons. If there's any truth in that, I think a deal gets done 100%. I don't think Atletico would be willing to miss out on Romero for the sake of 5 million euros. On the flip side, I don't think Tottenham would be stubborn to not sell, even if it goes to late in the window, for the sake of 5 million if they're looking to sell. So either way, I think a deal would probably get done, or they met in the middle. So I think, for me, it's a good chance he leaves, in my opinion.
Yeah, which is going to be a massive blow for us going into next season, because we don't have, and we're not going to get another centre-back of the level, or even close to the level, of a Cristian Romero. Does this mean that we're going to go into next season without signing a further centre-back? We've got Dragoshin here, we've got Danso here, we've got Mickey van der Ven, we've got Kota Takai, and we've got Ben Davis as well at this moment in time. So are those the 5 centre-backs, or 4 of those are we going to go into next season with, or are we going to sign someone on top of that? I mean, by bringing in Kota Takai, and you're looking at the squad numbers, it doesn't really add up to bring in another centre-back.
I mean, yeah, and the numbers do add up if he's Romero's replacement, which is worrying.
Yeah.
That is a concern. Are they going to put full trust in Danso and Dragoshin to fulfil that role? I guess you would say, you wouldn't sign them if you didn't trust them. So maybe that's what the club is thinking, and maybe Frank thinks, okay, they're good enough. But from the evidence that I've seen personally, yes, it's it's different systems, all that kind of stuff, and there is reason to suggest that Dragoshin and Danso would be better playing for Frank. But the evidence I've seen is there would both be a massive downgrade on Romero, and we would be taking a big hit in quality at the back if we were to go forward with Dragoshin and Danso. On top of that, what kind of condition is Dragoshin going to be in for the first half of the season, recovering from an ACL? That is obviously another consideration. For me, Danso, I like him. I like what I've seen at Tottenham. Is he ever going to be close to what Romero is in terms of just that calmness on the ball, that ability to pick out passes? He always seems to be in a rush, Danso. And at this point in time, he's now, 26? He's not a young guy, still learning his game. That's kind of how he is at the moment. So that's a worry. He needs to kind of learn a different kind of way of playing. So for me, I would argue with Champions League football coming up next season, 100% we would need to replace Romero with top quality talent who's ready to step in at Champions League level, which we don't know Danso and Dragoshin are. But as you say, with Takai coming in, if what Ali Gold says is true and he is going to be used in the first team, then I think the numbers make sense for him to be the replacement, and that is a concern. Is that enough quality at centre-back? I think on paper there's talent there, don't get me wrong. I don't think any of them are awful. But, as I said, we've got Champions League football coming up next season. We're going to need to have as much quality in there as possible. And is there enough quality to compete on those 4 fronts? I severely doubt it, to be honest.
There is a case to say that potentially the only way we can make it work with signing a new centre-back is if we do sell Dragoshin this summer. Mm-hmm. I have seen reports over the past couple of weeks that Spurs would potentially be open to offers for Dragoshin. And
there was talks with Milan. There was rumours with Milan.
Yeah, so if a significant offer does come in for Dragoshin, then all of a sudden that opens up the spot. But that's the only way I can see it.
I agree. Or I would even consider a loan as he gets fit from his ACL and get another team to basically get him the game time, and then he comes back a much better player, much more ready. I would consider that and sign another one as well. So for me, that would massively be a consideration. If a Serie A club is willing to either take him on a loan or maybe even a loan with an option to buy, I would consider that if I'm Tottenham, 100%.
So we'll have to wait and see how this one plays out, but I'm sure the Romero news is just going to keep intensifying now as the days progress. Let's talk about two academy boys. First one, Alfie Devine. Alan Nixon says that Tottenham have placed a £6 million valuation on Alfie Devine amid interest from Sheffield United. This one is, I'm a bit worried about that because I really believe in Alfie Devine's talents, and I think he could have a future here. However, you're looking at where he would fit in the squad, particularly going into the season this year or even next year with the players that we have at our disposal and the ages of the players that we have at our disposal. You just can't really see a proper pathway for Alfie, even though I think he's a really big talent. So I think the way to do it is maybe even sell him with a buyback option or something like that.
Yeah, I think what he's shown, for me, I think Alfie's shown a lot of talent on his loan deals, even in pre-season, the little spells we've seen him. He definitely looks talented. But he is 20 now. He's not a youngster anymore, and he needs to get his career up and running. And if he's not going to be at Tottenham right now, maybe he wants to move permanently, because, it's all well and good keep going out on loan, but when are you going to get your opportunity? He's now, how many loans he's had at Tottenham? 3? And he's now 20. Maybe he feels like, look, if you're not going to give me an opportunity this summer, I just want to move on. And then maybe it is a case of buy with a buyback option or a sell-on clause or something in his contract so that we can invest in his future. But I think right now, unfortunately, as much as he's talented, if he's not going to be better than Sarr and Bergvall, I think we've got a tough decision to make.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, I want to keep him and give him one more year on loan and see what that takes us. But I believe his contract doesn't have too much left to run on it either. So, yeah, it's a big and hard decision to make, that's for sure. And last but not least, Ashley Phillips, Alan Nixon as well, says Sheffield United are willing to pay £6 million for Ashley Phillips if Tottenham decide to sell the defender in this current transfer window. Again, a player who I have massive belief and hope for, and I believe he can be a very good Premier League centre-back. However, we keep stockpiling centre-backs, so something's got to give.
Yeah, and that's also another problem. Again, we were saying, do we give Ashley Phillips a chance this summer to have an opportunity in the first team, given his 2 loan spells? Clearly, with the signing of Takai, they don't want to do that. They don't feel like he's ready. Are we going to, if we loan him out again, does he need another Championship loan? Does he need a Premier League loan? At the moment, it seems as though only Championship clubs are going in for him. So, again, he's 20, he's still young for a centre-back. So I think another loan deal could be done for Ashley Phillips for the future. But again, it could be a case of he may be looking for a more permanent solution right now. He's definitely one I think we need to have a sell-on clause or buyback option with, because I think I would love to see where his career goes, because I think for Stoke he was great last year. For Plymouth he's been good. He's a real talent, never really given a chance at Tottenham, and again, that's the problem. We have so much talent, and then we keep buying players on top of that. You have to make tough decisions like this.
Yeah, and you're looking at players like Kota Takai, who's just been brought in, clearly ahead. Players like Vuskovic, who we all expect to be one of the best centre-backs in Europe with the way everyone talks about him. And he's just got so many players in that position. It's just like, how is he ever supposed to break into this team?
Yeah, I don't know.
And you're looking at the attributes that these players have as well. Like, I feel like Vuskovic and Kota Takai are much more kind of adept to playing the kind of football that we want to play potentially as well.
Much maybe a bit better on the ball potentially.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not to say he can't get better on the ball. He's still very young. He can do it, if he gets coached in the right manner. So, look, it's another big kind of question mark for the Spurs hierarchy and the coaching staff of what they want to do with Ashley Phillips, because he will be a very good defender in his career, and he'll make a very good career for himself. I'm pretty certain of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is the Tottenham update for today. A lot to get your teeth bitten into there. So obviously the key talking point is Cuti Romero and what happens with him this summer. But with the reports coming out today, it does not look good, people.
And it's a massive worry for me. Massive worry losing him. And that's obviously the risk you run because obviously we know that he had a very close relation with Ange and potentially he would have been happy to stay. I just think with Ange gone, maybe he feels like, look, again, he hasn't had the conversation with Frank yet, so that could all change it. But losing that quality for me is in the centre back position is just such a massive hit to our back line. It really is.
Yeah.
And I don't know how he move forward from that. Just I hope Frank can work his magic.
The reality with Romero, it was going to happen sooner. It was going to happen at some point, wasn't it? You know,
Yeah, he's unlikely to be.
he's got 2 years left on his deal. He's not signing a new one. He's come out publicly saying he wants to play in Spain at some point in his career. It just is what it is. You know what I mean? Like, if you've got a player that doesn't really want to be here and he sees his future lying elsewhere, it's just a deal you got to get done.
Agreed. But maybe it's interesting if I was to tell you we'll sell Romero, keep our centre backs, and maybe we can get a Simons with a Kudus, or would you rather spend it on another centre back?
I think I'd take the Simons and Kudus, to be honest.
just go for it.
Yeah.
Kind of. I'd be too tempted not to do that. You know what I mean?
But also, like, you'll see centre backs come in next season under a Frank system as opposed to an Ange system and look a lot better, in my opinion. So we saw Danso in Ange's, crazy system, a bit erratic at times, but maybe under the coaching of Frank, he can calm him down a little bit.
I just think he's always been a bit erratic. That's what I've seen from him in Austria. That's how he was definitely playing at international level. So I don't think it's a system thing why he plays the way he does. But again, definitely maybe one-on-one time with Frank, and he can get a different side to him, and he can coach him in a different way. That's definitely true. But I think right now that's just his kind of style. I don't think it's a system specific.
Who's got a higher ceiling then, like Dragshin or Danso?
Who's got a higher ceiling? I think potentially Dragoshin.
Well, who's a better player right now?
I think Danso's a better player. He's definitely better on the ball, much more comfortable on the ball. Albeit he's more comfortable, but he's also more comfortable making. I think Dragoshin is kind of scared to make a mistake, but he does make mistakes on top of that because he's just uncomfortable on the ball, uncomfortable playing out the back. Whereas Danso is comfortable on the ball and comfortable playing out the back, but he's also comfortable making mistakes. He'll make mistakes, then he'll do it again. You know what I mean? I feel like Dragoshin will get the ball, he'll be really nervous and he'll pass out a play, and then he'll never make that pass again for the rest of the game because he's just so nervous.
The rest of his season.
All the rest of the season. Whereas Danso will get the ball, he'll drive forward, he'll smash a pass out of play, and then he'll do it again a minute later. But he doesn't care about it, which is a good and a bad thing, I guess. It's probably more a good thing because it means he's not scared to, play his natural game and that kind of stuff. And you need that bravery in sport. So I think Danso is a better player, more confident player. But I think Dragoshin defensively, for me, is probably a bit better than Danso, I think, in my opinion.
Got a super chat here saying Romero is the best centre-back at the club since Ledley King.
I don't know. Is he better than Jan and Toby? I mean...
He's achieved more in his career than Jan and Toby, but I think that...
Do Jan and Toby win the World Cup if they're in that Argentina team?
Probably, but I think that Jan and Toby were much better for Spurs than Romero has been for Spurs.
That's true. But I don't think, if we're talking about purely over his career, not just at Tottenham, I don't think Toby has the impact at international level that Romero does, in my opinion, if you put him in that Argentina team. Romero has such a profound role in that team. I don't think Toby's just a different kind of player, but I don't know if he's got that level of impact. He never really did it at international level, Toby, for Belgium, even though they had a very good team around him. I think at their very, very best, I think purely as a centre back, I would say Romero is a better player, But I think for Tottenham, for sure, Toby was much more consistent, and he had that like long passing ping on him, which I think Romero has in him, but not to the level I think Toby had. And obviously he developed that partnership with Vertonghen. And Vertonghen was also what a player Vertonghen was. I think Vertonghen is maybe a bit of a better shout than Romero than Toby.
For me, Vertonghen's our best centre back since Ledley. For me.
Yeah, maybe
Vertonghen was special, man. He really was, and he went through those first kind of couple of years. And first year he came in, he kind of burst onto the scene, and the next year under AVB, I thought he was poor, but then as soon as Poch came, he was just incredible, absolutely incredible. And for me, Jan Vertonghen definitely the best centre back we've had since then, and I don't think Kuti tops that. And I think I still think that they still win the World Cups and Coppers without Romero and one of Jan or Toby there.
I don't know. Romero, I think Romero made such a big impact. It was very specific to him, I think, how he is. They've had a lot of centre-backs in their time, but Romero was the answer to all their problems.
But I don't think they've had centre-backs on the level of Jan and Toby.
Yeah, maybe not, but I think it's more his aggressive nature, the way he pounces on things, the way he anticipates things, and when he's on it, he all does it at such a high level that it's so hard to stop. I just don't know if Jan and Toby would have had that same impact that Romero did at international level.
But they're high enough quality to be able to win it with that team around them as well.
I bet they had a very good team at Belgium. They didn't never.
Yeah,
really...
it's true, but that's not down to Jan and Toby why they didn't win. There was a clear system problem.
I think it was part of it.
Why was it part of it?
They just weren't good enough to win it.
I mean, they didn't
have great tournaments.
I think it was a whole heap of problems with Belgium. They never had the right manager at the right time to get the best out of them.
Yeah, potentially. And maybe Argentina did with Scaloni, who knows? But I think a lot of it was, look, don't get me wrong, they're phenomenal players. I love Jan and Toby, two of my favourite players. But just because I rate them highly doesn't mean they were good enough to win a World Cup as a partnership. I don't know. Maybe they weren't. And the evidence suggests maybe they weren't, because I don't think they were very good in the tournaments a lot of the time. Or a lot of the time in the big moments, they were found a bit wanting, unfortunately. And it's not to say that means they're bad players. It just means the very, very top of winning that tournament. I don't know if they just couldn't reach it.
You don't think put Jan and Toby as the partnership instead of Otamendi and Romero for Argentina's wins? You don't think they win the World Cup, and you don't think they win those tournaments?
It's tough to say, but I don't think so.
I think they would.
I don't know.
I think they would. But I saw an unpopular opinion that we never reacted to coming after we shot the video, saying that Spurs fans massively overrate Ledley King. And I was thinking, what they were saying, just because he was a really good player in a really poor side. And I'm like sitting there thinking, like, if Ledley King was at Tottenham right now, he would be our best centre back by far.
Ledley King was so special. I think people don't realise. I remember we were having this debate on WhatsApp with I think it was with Brains, yeah. And he was saying, Ledley wasn't actually that technical. And literally, I typed it on YouTube, there's literally a compilation of all his most technical moments. This is all him playing with one knee, by the way. And he's dropping the ball out the sky and playing first-time passes in behind. This guy can play with his left foot, his right foot. He was so comfortable on the ball on either side. He had unbelievable passing ability. Obviously, that's why he was so comfortable midfield as well. He was very comfortable with passing, very comfortable with his ball-carrying ability. Yes, his injuries obviously held him back, but this guy wasn't just a very fast centre-back who had unbelievable defensive reading of the game, which he did, but he could play. The guy could play to an unbelievable standard. He was
left
special.
foot, right foot, no matter what.
He was a special centre-back. He wasn't overrated. In fact, he's probably underrated, I would say.
I think he's massively underrated because of the injury problems that we have, that he had. He's not outside of Spurs. He's very kind of disrespected. Extremely disrespected outside of Spurs. And you look at the words like Thierry Henry said, Ledley King was the most hardest defender he had to face in his time in the Premier League. That just tells you everything. He had to face Rios and Terrys and all these kind of things. And Ledley King was so good that they had to fit him somewhere, and they had to play him at centre mid in one of the tournaments. The guy, you don't play centre mid if you're not technically gifted. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous, this whole narrative around Ledley King. The guy is if he had 2 knees, he would be remembered right now as one of the best centre-backs to ever grace the Premier League.
Agreed. Absolutely agree. And if Tottenham were a better team as well, we probably won more.
Well, if he had 2 knees, he probably would have left Tottenham. That's the reality.
I'm just reading a thread. West Ham Central posted, "Our West Ham fans, are you bothered with the Kudus thing?" Some are saying not really. I'm assuming you are. One said, "Is he any good? Haven't seen much of him." Oh no, that's not. Okay, I'm just seeing if West Ham fans. One says would be gutted. Harry says not really if we get 60+ million. Another guy says personally couldn't give a toss if we get 65 million. It's a very mixed reaction, fair to say. Not overwhelmingly one way or the other. But it seems there's more not bothered than people caring, which is quite interesting.
They're saying that now, but let's see what happens when he lines up against West Ham and he puts one in the back of the
he's
net.
holding a Tottenham
Are they still not going to be bothered then? I guarantee you this is just to save a bit of face.
Imagine that Kudus at the London Stadium doing that sit on the bench celebration. Oh my God, that's going to boil some piss.
Really
Surely he'll never do that. That'd be so funny. Jacob Steinberg apparently saying there hasn't been a bid. That's what his information is. He said there has been no bid from Tottenham yet.
So who do we believe? Ex-West Ham employee or Jacob Steinberg?
I don't think there's been I reckon there's been talks. Yeah, inquiry. Like, would 50 million be enough? They probably said no, which technically is a bid rejected, but is it official bid rejected? No. So then Jacob Steinberg probably is info asking, has there been a bid? And they say no. And it's all these games being played, and when it comes to reporting transfers, I don't believe there's been an official bid, but have we asked if 50 million's enough? Probably, yeah.
Fair enough. Well, look, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of news coming out now, and it's July the 1st tomorrow, so that's the new financial year in terms of PSR, and that's what we were led to believe that Spurs have been waiting for. So let's see them put their plans in action now, people. Let's see them put their money where their mouth is. The players come back, I believe, the non-international players, a week today to Hotspur way. So let's see if we can get any players in before the start of pre-season, people. But that is it from us. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Smash that like button, smash that subscribe button, and as always, come on, you Spurs.